Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan McNeil, and this is the Builder by Day podcast. The topic of today's conversation is if you're a home buyer, I'm going to give you the information to help you better negotiate with a home builder. Now, you might think, why would a home builder tell people how to negotiate with a home builder? Or why would I give away this information that you might think is in some way putting myself as a home builder at a disadvantage, but that is in no way the case. The home building process is it's different. It's intimate. It's long. It's drawn out. It takes a long time to get from start to finish. And it all starts with these earlier conversations where you as a buyer are going to have conversations with and discuss with the home builder what it is you want and what they can offer. And hopefully there's some synergy there and you're going to work together. So what I'm going to do with this today, I have 10 things, 10 items, a list here. Now they are in no particular order, except they are somewhat in an order, and I'll elaborate on that as I go through it. But when it comes to negotiating with a home builder, I use the word negotiate, but you could replace the word negotiate and just you could call it having a conversation or doing an investigation into who it is you would like to build your home if you're in the process of considering having a home built. Also, for the purpose of this conversation, I'm referring specifically to new homes to be built that are not already under construction. So I'm going to give you just 2 seconds of a bit of lingo that we use in the home building business. We have what we refer to as pre-sold homes, which makes sense, of course. These are homes that are pre-sold and the construction doesn't start until the home is sold. And from day one, these homes are being built for a specific customer. Then we have what we refer to here locally as spec homes. You'll often hear builders also call them model homes, or in other parts of the world, other provinces, everyone kind of uses different terminology. This could be referred to as inventory homes, spec homes, model homes, unsold homes. In other words, these are homes that are not already under construction at the time you begin having a conversation with the builder, okay? But for the purpose of this conversation today, I am referring to pre-sold homes. So I am speaking to the customers or potential customers or anybody that is considering having a home built and is trying to determine not only what they're going to build, but which builder they are going to choose, okay? So what I've done here is I have a list of 10 things and I've written out a bit of a blurb, a couple sentences on each one. I'd like to give you the item. I'll read out what I had written, and then I'm just going to, add to it to elaborate on that item a little further. So first, let me start by stating that negotiating with a home builder, in this case, as I mentioned, is essentially, think of this negotiation as you as the customer ultimately trying to get the best value for your money. Everyone should want the best value for their money. That makes perfect sense, and it goes without saying. But when I refer to negotiating, don't think of it as a back and forth. Sometimes in a negotiation, people think, there's a winner and a loser. In this case, we're both winners, right? We both want exactly the same thing. You and your home builder both want the same thing. You both want for you to purchase a home from that builder. We're working toward the same goal, but that normally starts with obviously a conversation, and then you make sure that you find a builder who can provide for you what you want. And more importantly, or equally as important, I guess, would be making sure that it's a builder and a company that you're going to be comfortable dealing with. Negotiating with a home builder requires preparation and patience and understanding the new home building process. And this is essentially a step-by-step guide, 10 things that I would recommend to you that you do when negotiating with or having a conversation with a builder. Okay, here we go. These are somewhat in no particular order, but there are a few things that have to take place, that should take place in some cases even before you pick up the phone. And this is number one. So the number one thing that you should do prior to contacting any home builder is to do some research and comparisons. Researching multiple builders in your area, comparing their work quality, their prices, and customer reviews knowing what their competitors offer. Also do general market research when it comes to real estate. That would be things like home prices, the availability of homes, what's currently on the market for sale, new developments. Basically, make yourself aware of what's going on and what's available around you, and inform yourself as much as possible prior to calling the builder. Okay, let me reiterate. Let me elaborate on this, but also let me mention that anytime during this conversation, when I refer to the builder, I don't necessarily mean an individual. I mean the company that you might be contacting. Now, depending on the size of the company, certainly the builder could be a specific person that's going to handle all of this conversation for you. But builder could mean person, or builder could mean representative of the company. You guys know where I'm going with that. So step number one is to research and compare. Prior to calling the builder, you should have some sense of what is available around you, what the builders are currently building, what's currently under construction, any new developments that are happening in the communities where you would like to consider moving or building, some general sense of what new home construction costs in your area, some general sense of who the players are in the game, who the different builders are, perhaps in the neighborhoods or community where you want to build. Basically, you want to inform yourself as much as is possible. You've put a little effort into it prior to calling the builder, because from a builder's perspective, if somebody calls and you get on the phone with a prospective client and they have literally no idea about anything going on around them when it comes to real estate, market research, new home construction, anything, the builder's going to not be nearly as interested in that conversation as if you are somebody who contacts that builder and says, hi, I'm so-and-so, and we're in the market considering looking at building. We've been looking at this community or that community. We've been through, a couple of your model homes. We've saw some other homes from some other builders. In other words, if you're somebody that looks like you've been putting in some work, you now have that builder's ear much more than if you're somebody that looks like you were bored and wanted to call a home builder and see how much houses cost these days. Okay. Number two on my list, which is not always applicable, but if this is applicable, you should actually do this first. Okay. Number two on the list, hire a realtor if you're going to hire a realtor. Here's what I mean by this. In the new home construction market, and we're in Nova Scotia, but this is probably similar, quite frankly, everywhere. I can't see why it wouldn't be. When it comes to custom built homes, people will often ask me, they'll say, they'll make a phone call, and one of the questions they might ask will be, do we need a real estate agent to buy a home from Stonewater Homes? And the answer to that is no, you certainly don't need a real estate agent. But if you do have a real estate agent, then we need to engage that person right now. So we could have perhaps a very high level conversation, one conversation with a potential client or somebody that's inquiring who does have a realtor and intends to use that realtor. But we're not going to go very far down that road. If you have a realtor, your realtor should be making that phone call on your behalf. Your realtor should be present at the very first meeting that we may have. Your realtor should be asking those questions on your behalf. Where it gets a little tricky when it comes to the realtor situation is when it comes to new home construction, custom home construction, whereby a customer will contact a builder about a home that they potentially want to have built. For instance, if you already own your land, if you already have your property and you're looking to hire a builder to build on your property, then in that case, absolutely there won't be a realtor involved because there is no property changing hands. There's no actual real estate contract that has this property changing hands and now being owned by this new owner when it's all said and done. When you're just having a home built on your pre-existing, already owned property, definitely no realtors involved in that situation. When it comes to a custom built home, when you're contacting a builder and you'd like to talk to that builder about what options they may have available to you to build on land that they own, or perhaps you're in the process of hunting for a parcel of land, and if or when you find what you're looking for, you'd like to engage a builder, then of course you may be dealing with a realtor. So the takeaway from that is, if you are going to hire a realtor, or if you're already working with a realtor, so if you're somebody who's on you're actively looking to buy a home and your realtor is helping you search for homes, then you need to keep your realtor engaged in that conversation. Here's what you absolutely do not want to do. Okay, this is an absolute no-no when it comes to negotiating with or discussing with home builders about a potential build. If you have a realtor, make it known right out of the gate, first conversation. Don't make the dreadful mistake that some people do of later on down the road, after you've already had your first or second or maybe third meeting with the home builder and you've met with them and you're starting to throw around some real nitty gritty. Don't then say, oh, okay, great. I'm glad we're at this point now. I'll have my agent reach out to you or make a comment like, so, where do I have my realtor write up this paperwork? How do we do that? Don't bring the realtor in late. The realtor needs to be there. They are your representation. They need to be there from day one. And along those lines, people will sometimes ask the question, does it make a difference if I have a real estate agent? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. It does make a difference if you have a real estate agent. So if we're talking about a home that's going to be built, perhaps in a community where the builder is building homes, let's say you have a street, the builder is going up and down the street, building one house after the other, and the builder usually has a realtor as well. And if you have a realtor, then you would have your realtor contact their realtor, and that's kind of how that conversation goes. But it does make a difference. And it makes a difference for two reasons. It makes a difference logistically. So there is a difference with how we as a home builder will deal with a potential customer if they have a realtor versus not. And that has to do with just how we communicate and the proper channels that we follow, and we keep certain people in tune. But the other thing that makes a difference is it can have an impact on price. So if you're buying a home that's currently on the market, it's listed for sale, it's listed on the MLS system, the builder has listed the home, they have a realtor, you have a realtor, you go see the house. At that point, no, it's not going to have any impact on the price, because the price, the real estate fees have already been included in that home. The builder has already factored that in when he priced the house that he put on the market. If you're contacting a builder and you're having a conversation about building a home from scratch, pre-sold for you, then yes, it's going to make a difference if you have a realtor. And the reason it's going to make a difference is that your realtor is not working for free. And your builder is going to be aware that your realtor needs to be compensated. And so every builder is going to price a home the same way. They're going to run through the costs from top to bottom. They're going to get to the bottom of that number. They know what their costs are. They add whatever margin it is that they work on, and there's your total price. But one of those line items in determining the total cost of construction is real estate fees. And so the realtor has to be compensated for that. They're providing a service. And so from a builder's perspective, we need to know if we need to add a line item for buyers' real estate agent fees. When it comes to pre-sold homes, it would be not very common for folks to come to us from a custom pre-sold, a custom built home. It would not be overly common for folks to come to us with a realtor, because for a couple of reasons. Usually because those folks aren't actively out shopping for homes. They're more so considering building, and they tend to contact builders directly for that. But the other reason why folks wouldn't perhaps come to us with a realtor when we're talking custom built homes is that realtors generally don't like working with new construction to begin with, and they definitely don't like spending a lot of time working with customers who are considering building a home with a builder rather than buying a home. That's a whole other podcast I could go into, but let's just leave it at that. So the hiring of the realtor part, or at least notifying your builder that you have a realtor, that really should be number one at the top of the list, but it doesn't apply to everybody. So I have it at number two, being number one being doing your own research and comparing. Because if you have a realtor, then your realtor should be helping you with that research and comparison part. That's what they do. That's part of the service they provide. Moving on to number three, be clear on your budget. Builders are more likely to work with you if you have a clear, firm budget. Be upfront about what you can afford and focus on finding a mutually beneficial agreement. know your limits, have a clear understanding of your financial limits, and make that known to the builder. Builders may, in some cases, some builders may try to or want to sell you upgrades or additional features. So just be prepared to be clear with the builder as to where your budgetary constraints are. And the other thing you can do when it comes to budget is to be pre-approved. Get an approval for a loan if you're financing the project. And this shows your builder that you're serious and helps streamline the process. So if you're not financing and you have your finances arranged, that's great too. But the more prepared you can be, the better when you talk with the builder. But I cannot stress this enough. Be clear on what your budget is and share what that is. Now, a lot of people, there's pushback on this. You can see it when in the first conversation that I have, if somebody contacts our office and I end up on the phone with that person having a general conversation about the fact that they are considering building, one of the very first things I'm going to ask them in that conversation, it's going to be something along the lines of, do you have any idea where you'd like to build, what you'd like to build? And then we're going to get to, what is your budget? What price range is it that we are discussing? And I'm going to ask you that question for a number of reasons, partly because it helps me steer you toward a certain community, perhaps. So if we have communities whereby the average homes are, 6 to 700,000, and we have other communities where the average home is 900,000 to $1 million, and you tell me that your budget is, the upper end of your budget is 750, then I'm not going to bring up the $1 million community because there's no point doing that. No different than if you walked into, a car dealership this afternoon, you go to the Honda dealership or Ford or GM or whatever it is. When you walk through the door, one of the first things that salesperson is going to ask you is, what type of price range are we talking about here? And if so if you go in and say, hey, we're thinking about buying a car, and they say, okay, great. What do you have in mind? Well, we don't really know, something with 4 wheels and 4 doors. Okay, great. Any other requirements or any other criteria that you'd like me to work with? And if you're kind of wishy-washy, then what any salesperson will do, and certainly any builder will do in this case, is to try to help you zero in on something and to help them determine what it is they could offer you, is to determine what price point we're talking about. Now, the pushback on that, and I understand where it comes from, some folks are reluctant to do that because they have this misconception is what it is, but this misconception that the builder is somehow going to take that information and use it against you. So if you say, hey, listen, our budget is, 700,000 to 800,000, then there's this common thought, it seems, from some folks where somehow the builder is then going to sell you a $650,000 house for $800,000 because they knew that's how much money you had, and they're gonna get you. That's just not how it works. We don't operate that way. I don't really know any builders that would operate that way. And the information is so publicly available these days with respect to what's on the market, what's for sale, how much it's listed for, how much it's sold for. Here in this province, everyone can just go online and with a click of a button can determine, very easily see how much houses are listed for, but not just how much they're listed for, you can see how much they sold for. So the information is out there. If you want to do the research, you know where things are. So for instance, if a 2,500 square foot, 2-story home with 3 bedrooms and 3 baths and a garage attached in this general area where you're looking, because again, you've done your research, if that home is somewhere in the 700,000 to 800,000 range, then you're going to be aware if a builder tries to sell you something that is 1,800 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath with no garage, and they tell you 800,000, you're going to know that math just isn't working. So because you're informed, which you've done in step 1 and you've done your research, sharing your budget doesn't put you at a disadvantage. As a matter of fact, it shows the builder that you have put some thought into this and you're serious about it, and it allows the builder to then help you identify which communities, which home plans, size of homes, details, features, and so on. Okay. Not only should you not be afraid to share your budget, you should absolutely do it. As a matter of fact, you should offer it up. The clients and potential clients who call us, and very early on they say, we're after the niceties and you get into the conversation, they're very quick to offer up the information as to, look, we're looking at building and we'd like to stay under 900,000, somewhere between 8 and 9 would be good. Closer to 8, the better, but we could go to 9. Okay, great. That's all the information I need to work with for the time being. Moving on to item number 4, prioritize your needs. Identify non-negotiables. Decide what features and design elements and must-haves and what you're willing to compromise on. And list potential trade-offs. Consider upgrades or finishes that might be negotiable if the price is firm. For example, if you can't get a price reduction, ask for something like a flooring upgrade or appliances or something along those lines. Okay. Prioritizing your needs is important. You need to be able to tell the builder what are your must-haves and what are your would be nice to have. Okay. Because the builder then can take your must-haves, things like we must have 4 bedrooms on the second floor because we have 3 children. We want everyone up on the same floor. Great. We must have a garage attached because, we need it. Or we need to have no carpet anywhere in the house because we have pets and they'll destroy it. Whatever it might be, whatever your must-haves are, make sure that the builder knows what that is. And then those sort of second tier of items, the things that would be nice to have but aren't deal breakers, you also make that known so the builder can then help you determine which of those things might be providing you with the best value as you move along the process. And then you know which things to scrap and which things to keep. Item number 5 is to understand the builder's flexibility. Customization options. Some builders are more flexible with changes and upgrades while others have set packages. Understanding where they can adjust the plan, like materials, finishes, and features, is key. This is important because this partly comes back to you doing your research, but it will also become more clear as you have a conversation with the builder. So understanding the builder's flexibility, what that really means is, are you talking with a builder who is very flexible on customization, or are you talking with a builder that basically has some predetermined things that you can choose from, but you've got to stay within that box? And there's a range. So, some builders are completely wide open. You can have or do anything you want, but those are generally going to be the builders who don't provide turnkey, all-inclusive pricing. More so, that'll be builders who operate on, say, a cost-plus scenario, where, essentially, that's a situation where the builder will do whatever it is you want them to do. You're paying for it. They're adding a markup on anything that you decide to upgrade or change or do. So it doesn't really matter to them how many upgrades you want to make. That's pretty rare, though. You don't see that very often. And so knowing the builder that you're dealing with and where they fit on the customization scale is important, because it has to match what you want. So if you're looking for a builder, and this would be most cases. So in our market, most of the clients that we deal with would fit on the spectrum whereby they want and they look for a lot of flexibility at the forefront. So a lot of flexibility on design when we're sitting down at the early stages and we're designing a home for them, and they want to move walls and make adjustments and windows and doors and ceiling heights and vaults and staircases and any of those things. We provide that level of flexibility. We also provide a lot of flexibility throughout the process to allow folks to make changes and have amendments to the contract as we go, provided that they're done in a timely manner and we don't go past a milestone and then have to come back to it. But not all builders are like that. Some builders they may give you some flexibility at the forefront, but once your contract is signed, it's basically, see you in 12 months or whenever it is that things are completed, and there is no flexibility during construction. And that's fine. If you know what you're signing on for, that's fine. If you're happy with that. But if you're looking for some flexibility as things go along, then you got to make sure that the builder you choose provides that flexibility. Number 6 on the list is negotiating upgrades, if any. Builders may be willing to offer discounts on upgrades such as higher end finishes, landscaping, appliances. Again, I've mentioned these few items a few times. And making a list of upgrades that matter to you is important. So here's what this one means. It sounds a bit redundant, but here's what I mean by this one. When I say negotiating upgrades, generally speaking, and in our world, if I speak for Stonewater Homes, I can tell you with absolute certainty that when it comes to pre-sold homes and pricing, once we have gone through the design process, which is involved for us. So we take from the first conversation we had and we progress from there to home plans are drawn, specs are completed, contracts put together, and we're ready to move forward. That can oftentimes take, well, it will take weeks. It can take months. I've had to take many months. It ultimately depends on how quickly the customer can move through that process. But once you've gone through that process and the builder comes back with, you've determined all of the details, and the builder comes back and says, here is your final quote. The purchase price or the contract price is $812,432. There it is. Most home builders, custom home builders at that point, are not going to negotiate on that price in a traditional sense. So if you come back and say, okay, thanks for the pricing, we've had a look at it, and we see that the price is $812,000. Can you do it for $795? Okay, the builder's going to say no in most cases. What the builder's going to say there is, I can't do all of that for $795, but I can work with you as to how we get it from $812 to $795. Maybe there are some upgrades that you made in the process that you're able to part with, or maybe there are some other things that the builder can suggest to get you to the number where you want to be. Now, sure, you might find the odd time where the builder comes in at $812,000 and you come back, say, we're ready to sign and get moving with it. Is there any chance you could do it at $810? And I mean, I don't know. Maybe the builder says, yeah, sure, I can kick $2,000 out of the price and away we go. But think of new home construction, pre-sold, custom-built homes the same way you would think of ordering a custom-built vehicle. So you walk into the Chevy dealership and you're going to order yourself a new Corvette. And keeping in mind this Corvette, as expensive as it may be at $120,000 or wherever it might be, that's still a fraction of the $900,000 home you're talking about with a builder. So when you go to a dealership and you want to order a custom-built vehicle that they are going to process an order, send it onward, have the vehicle built, have it land here 3 or 4 months later, and it's $120,000. When you run through the list of all the things that you would like, you choose the vehicle and the color and the rims and the tires and the which leather you want and the sound system. You run through all that, and it spits out a number at the bottom, and the salesperson says, here it is. It's $120,000 for your new Corvette. Are you ready to place the order? If you say, yeah, I'm ready to place the order, can we do it for 110 or 115, whatever it is? The answer is going to be no. They're going to say, we'd like to, but that's just not how it works, because we've priced it based on what you've told us you want. So if you need it to be $110,000 for your Corvette, then perhaps we need to get rid of, we need to go from the level 2 performance exhaust package. We got to get rid of that, and we got to scrap the sound system, and then here we are. Now we're at 110. The builder's going to say the same thing. If we got to get you to a different price, then we got to look at what we need to change to get you there. Okay? Very, very similar process. Number 7 on the list is that timing matters sometimes. Okay? This doesn't always necessarily apply in our world here at Stonewater Homes, but builders are often more flexible on pricing or upgrades, perhaps at the end of their fiscal year or the end of a quarter, or when they have a few months left in a development. They're kind of nearing the end of a development, perhaps. Maybe it's the last house left on the street and they're moving on somewhere else. And in this part of the world here in Canada, there also can be somewhat of a negotiating factor when it comes to the time of year. We build year-round. We sell homes year-round. But if you have flexibility, then that can play in your favor. So if you go to a builder and you say, we'd like to start building a home next spring. It's a pretty common time to start building homes. It's not that all homes get started in the spring, but it's probably the most common time. The majority of the construction volume is going to get started in the spring, summer months. Okay, it only makes sense. But if you go to the builder and one of the things that you make known to that builder is that you are flexible on time. So if you say to the builder, people often ask, how busy are you? How long does it take to get things built? If you follow it up with something along the lines of you telling your builder, listen, we're pretty flexible on when we start construction, but we're also flexible on when we need to close or when we need this construction to finish. So if you come to a builder and say, it's February and you would like to move in, the builder tells you it's going to take 12 months to build your house. And you say, okay, well, we'd like to move in by Christmas. Well, that's not 12 months. You're down to 10 months. So right out of the gate, in order for the builder to do that, remember, you're asking them to put on the hurry up offense or whatever it is that they have to do to meet your time frame. And maybe they can, but that's not going to work in your favor from a negotiating perspective. What would work in your favor from a negotiating perspective would be to say, it's February. We know it takes 12 months to build a house, but that's cool because we would really just like to move in sometime by, let's say the end of June next year. So now that 12-month time frame that the builder told you they need, you've given them 15 or 16 months. And maybe they don't take that long, but you've let them know that you're flexible on the timing. And maybe you can't do that. Maybe you're not flexible on the timing. But if you are, it will work to your advantage to make it known that you have that flexibility. Number 8 on the list is to look for incentives. Some builders offer incentives such as covering your closing costs or offering a discount if you use perhaps their realtor or their lender or their lawyer. When it comes to pre-sold new home construction, there is not going to be a tremendous amount of negotiating room on the price itself. But builders can offer incentives that may have little to no impact on them, but can help you out. So, for instance, this could tie back to the realtor item on the list. Okay, so this could tie back to realtors in the sense that if you went to the builder and said, "We don't have a realtor. We're willing to work with your realtor if that makes things easier," then the builder may very well be able to, knowing that there is not a second realtor involved, the builder may be able to negotiate with his or her realtor a lesser commission perhaps because there's no other realtor involved. And maybe that, who knows, maybe they could save you half a percentage point on the price of the home. And there can be other incentives. The builder might be able to help you get a better rate. If you work with a lender that the builder is used to working with, if they work with one of the major banks and they have some kind of preferential treatment or preferential rates through that bank, that's an incentive for you. There's nothing in it for the builder. It doesn't matter to the builder where you get your mortgage, but it could matter to you if it ends up saving you, a half a percentage point or 0.2 on your mortgage. Who knows? Whatever it is, it could be something that helps you, and that's really what you're after. You're trying to come up with the best deal for yourself. Number 9 on the list, I refer to as don't be afraid to walk away. Shop around, speak to multiple builders, and compare what they have to offer. Knowing that you have other options can give you leverage in negotiations. Ultimately, you have to negotiate a deal that you're comfortable with. You have to be able to get the house that you want for the price that you can afford, and hopefully include as much of your must-haves and as many of your would-be nice-to-haves as possible. And you may find yourself needing to be, when I say don't be afraid to walk away, that might be walking away from the entire situation, not any particular builder, because you may talk to 3 different builders and they may all essentially give you very similar information. Your budget was $700, but what you want is $800, and that gap is just, you can't be bridged at this time. So you may have to walk away from the whole idea. Or you may have to walk away from your first choice as a builder because they can't get you there on price, and maybe price is paramount, and you're close, but on 800,000, this builder is at 800 and these guys are at 775 and your budget is 780 and that's the tippy top. And so, okay, you got to make that decision. But that probably won't happen very often in my world. It's very rare that that anyone would come to us and say, we went with builder B because their price was so much better than yours, or their price was better than yours, or the value was better than yours. We pride ourselves on offering the best value. Our tagline and slogan is better value by design. That doesn't mean we build the cheapest, least expensive homes, but we try to provide the most value to our customers, all things being equal. So don't be afraid to walk away from a particular builder or the idea as a whole. And that doesn't mean you're walking away forever. That might just mean you're walking away right now in spring of 2025, and you're going to revisit it in the fall when perhaps maybe there's a different situation. Something's going to happen in your world that might change some things. Or currently what the builder has to offer is on a certain street where the home prices are $800,000, but they've informed you that, look, 6 months from now, we're going to be on phase 3 of this development, and we're going to have some offerings that start at $599. Okay, so walk away for now, come back later. The last item on the list, number 10, is to get everything in writing. So this is, of course, after the real negotiation process has been completed. And now what you're looking for is when that final pricing comes in. This is prior to you signing anything. When the final pricing comes in, the final contract and all the final details and specifications, once you've reached an agreement, and when I say agreement, I mean an agreement on what it is to be included, then make sure that every detail is documented in the contract. This includes any promises of upgrades, timelines, warranties. By being informed, flexible, and firm in your negotiations, you can secure a better deal without compromising the quality or features of your home. So we are a custom home builder. We put everything in writing. Everything. We have our contract. We have our building specifications. We have a schedule that clearly identifies and explains the warranty process and the closing process and the walkthrough process and the amendment process. It's all in our documentation. And any builder that you hire to build a custom home for you should have these things illustrated and documented for you to clearly understand. Now, when I say get everything in writing, you obviously can't put every little thing in writing. What I mean by that is there's a collection of documentation that goes along with building a custom home. There are going to be home plans, building specifications, the contract, probably the warranty paperwork, and then the builder may have some other schedules or further details that go along with it. But ultimately, you're going to see a sort of a package of documentation, and you want to make sure that is there. When it comes to custom home builds, of course, you're not going to have, it's not like hiring a renovation contractor or a tradesperson to come in and remodel your bathroom. So it wouldn't be uncommon, although it's still a bad idea, it wouldn't be uncommon for someone to hire a contractor to come in and remodel their bathroom and for them to work on a handshake agreement. Again, I don't recommend that, but it's not uncommon. But you absolutely should not work on a handshake agreement with a home builder. You shouldn't do anything. You shouldn't even move on to step 1 without having it in writing. So the first step for us is conversations, and we start throwing some things around. The first time any money is going to change hands in our world is when we have moved on to step 1 of the process, which is our design process. And at that point, we take a small design deposit, but we don't seek that early on. We don't want your design deposit until you essentially are 99% sure that you're moving ahead. I can give you a ballpark estimate and say, yeah, you're going to be somewhere after we have some conversations. And I say, look, you're going to be somewhere in the 750 to 800,000 range. Okay, great. When that person then says, what are our next steps? Well, your next steps at that point are a design deposit so that we can now start drawing the plans we've been talking about and including all the details that you want to include and making all the changes and customization that you want to do so that we can then finalize the plans, send them off to our engineers and tradespeople as may be, or suppliers in order to collect information, kitchen designers, whoever it might be, so that we can then nail down the exact price that we're ready to go to contract with. But you definitely want to get that in. When I say get it in writing, I mean get everything in writing when you're at the point where you are moving forward. You're going to sign the contract, you're moving ahead. At this point now, you're probably giving your builder a more substantial deposit, like maybe it's 5 or 10%. At that point, yes, you need everything in writing. Anything that's not in writing in their contract, what we do and what I would recommend you ask your builders to do, we will send the contract to our customers ahead of time. Very easy to do these days. It's just a PDF document. You shoot them an email and you send it to them, say, listen, have a look through this, read it over the weekend or over the next week, whatever your time frame is, and let us know if you have any questions. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. And if there's something in the contract that you don't understand or you would like to have clarified, or maybe, theoretically, maybe the builder left out a line item or there was an upgrade that you discussed and it's not specifically noted, then it gives the builder an opportunity to get that in the writing, in the contract, so that you're comfortable that it's there and it didn't get missed. But again, the takeaway here is that I'm calling this, tips or advice for negotiating with a home builder. But you could, the term negotiate, really just means converse with or have a conversation with, or how to choose. I did a segment a couple of months ago on how to choose the best builder or how to choose the builder that you want to work with. But at this point, I'm talking about, you've kind of moved on from that process. And now you're at a point where you've pretty much selected which builder you're going to work with. And now it's how to negotiate the best price that you can get, the best deal that there is to be had, and to ensure that you're getting the best value for your money. Is that at a personal level, from a builder's perspective, I can tell you with absolute certainty that if there is a customer or a potential customer who set aside all this very specific stuff where we talk about realtors and budgets and upgrades and incentives and all this, just set that aside. If you are somebody who is going to be, the builder determines, is going to be a pleasure to work with, or you're going to be easy to work with and you're going to be respectful of their time and you expect them to be respectful of your time. In other words, if you want to find a builder that you feel you can get along with. And that builder is also, when it comes to custom built, pre-sold homes, I can assure you that builder is also looking for clients that they feel they can get along with and that their staff is going to be able to work with. I have in my world, and I don't mind saying it, and I say this to customers, I've said it to a number of people, and some folks kind of laugh and think that maybe I'm joking, but I'm being dead serious when I tell you this. And I know that other builders do it. Home builders have, even if not officially, in the back of their mind, when they're sitting and talking with a potential customer, and as that conversation moves a little further down the road, we as home builders are evaluating you as much as you are evaluating us. And this is, again, when I'm talking about pre-sold homes, because we're going to enter into a relationship that's going to take many, many months from the time we first make contact, the time you first reach out to the office and we have a conversation, from then until the time you move into that house and we hand over the keys, that is going to be more than a 1-year process. And we're going to have lots of back and forth. And when your house is under construction, we have a tremendous amount of communication that goes back and forth. We keep you well informed. We answer all your questions. We know what we're in for. And you want to make sure you have a builder you can work with, but we want to make sure we have a client we can work with. And I have a little thing in my world that I like to call the pain in the ass factor. And there's a spectrum, there's a scale. And when I meet somebody and I'm talking with them and I'm feeling it out, some people are way down here on a 0 or 1 on the pain in the ass. I'm thinking these guys are going to be great to work with. Nice people, very reasonable, polite. We have a bit of, we have a good energy between us as we work through things. And I think my staff will like working with these folks. But as you move along that scale and you get to the other end of the spectrum, and you get people that are going to be very difficult. Well, if you're talking with a new builder and relatively inexperienced, or somebody that's, really needs the business, they'll probably work with anyone. If you're talking with a home builder that is well established and has been in business for a while, and they have a good reputation and they know what they're doing, and they know what they're doing, then my advice to you is don't be difficult, right? No builder wants to sit down with somebody across from the table and get the sense that that person is quizzing them or testing them or challenging them on what they know about home building versus that person. And more importantly, and people do this, I tell you this because the topic we're talking here is how best to negotiate with a home builder to get the best deal for you. And what I'm saying is the best deal for you is to be a reasonable person so that that builder knows they're dealing with a reasonable person. If you are a pain in the ass, any builder who knows how to read people is going to pick up on that pretty quick. And then you won't get the best deal because when that builder is pricing the home, remember I talked about the line items as you go down, all the input costs, and somewhere down the bottom, there are real estate fees. Well, somewhere also on that spreadsheet for some builders is the pain in the ass factor. And it might be subconscious or it might be a real thing. I have literally in the past, in a line item in a spreadsheet, written something to the effect of, this person is going to be difficult X number of dollars. And that has nothing to do with profitability from a builder's perspective. That means I know that this person is going to demand more of our time than other folks. They're going to be more difficult to deal with than other folks. Now, if you get too far down that spectrum, if you get way over here on the pain in the ass factor, builders who are experienced and have a good thing going and they have a good reputation, they've been doing this for a while, they're going to cut you loose. Okay. And they're not going to make a scene about it. They're not going to tell you you're a pain in the ass. They're just going to not return your call or not be overly forthcoming with information or whatever it might be. And here, there are certain signs there are certain telltale signs. This does happen very often, folks. Don't get me wrong. It's not like half of the people that come through the door are fitting into this category, but every now and then you get one. And this will be somebody that says, early on in the conversation, maybe even in the first conversation, they might say things like, I have this experience or that experience, or somebody I know, or this person in my family is this, that, or whatever else. And so we would like them to we're going to make sure that they're involved in things, or we're going to want this. Here's a good one. Do you guys have any problem with us going to the job site every day and checking things out? Because, I'm an engineer and I like checking things out. Or somebody might say, my dad was a builder, or my dad is a contractor, and we're going to want him to keep an eye on things. So just, we just wanted to let you know that was the case. Those are like red flags are going off right now. Okay. There are bells and whistles, alarms going off in the back of my brain. I'm looking at this point, I'm not even hearing this person anymore. I have glossed over, and I'm going to continue to be polite and finish this conversation, but this is a no-go for me. So don't be that person. Don't be that person. And if you are that person, you're going to need to find a builder who is probably needing the work more than the experienced, reputable builders. And so you're going to probably have to find a builder that's willing to go down that road with you. Everybody wants to work with people that they feel like they're going to have a good working relationship with. The same way you're sitting on one side of the table thinking, we got to find a builder who we feel is going to be honest with us and truthful and forthcoming and reasonable and fair. Well, that builder wants the same thing from you as a customer. They want you to be fair and reasonable and polite and professional. And they're going to put up with far more than you are, right? You're the customer. So it's perfectly normal for you to expect the builder to give more on that end than you, of course. But do yourself a favor. And I'm not saying put on a facade. Don't be who you aren't, because it'll manifest later on, down the road anyway. But be as forthcoming as you can with the builder. If they think if I'm sitting down with someone, I feel like I'm getting the straight goods. This person is being honest with me. They're laying it out there for me. They really just want the information. Those conversations always go well. We normally get up from the table, we shake hands. These potential customers say things like, wow, that was a great meeting. Thanks very much for that. We learned so much. You're the only builder that spent the time with us to have those conversations. Nobody mentioned that to us before. Those types of things. Those are the kind of comments that we get. And normally when we get those comments, obviously it's good because we realize that we've made a connection with that potential customer, and maybe it goes nowhere. Maybe they never become a customer for whatever reason. We can't offer them what they need in their budget. We don't have a physical location offering that's going to check the boxes for them, whatever it is, but they'll still go away thinking, well, we'd love to do business with that particular company or that builder, but now is just not the time, or they can't offer what we need. And we want to leave the table saying the same thing. I want to leave the table saying, I'd love to build a home for those folks. Hopefully it'll work out. So one last time, I'm going to quickly run through these from top to bottom. 10 things that you should do to put yourself in a better negotiating position when talking with a custom home builder. Number 1, do your research and your comparisons. Number 2, hire a realtor if that is what you're going to do. And if that's what you're going to do, have your realtor help you with step number 1, the research and comparisons. Number 3, be clear on your budget and let your builder know what your budget is. Number 4, prioritize your needs. This is needs versus wants, but if you have some absolute must-haves, make sure that you make that clear with the builder. Number 5 is to understand the builder's flexibility. That means know who you're talking to. Are you talking with a fully customized builder? Are you talking with a builder that gives you some flexibility on aesthetics, but other than that, sign here, press hard? Number 6, negotiate your upgrades. Number 7, timing matters. Sometimes we talked about that. That could be a matter of you being flexible on the timing. It could also be a matter of seasonality, perhaps. Number 8 is to look for incentives. So that is to chat with your builder about things perhaps that they can offer you that maybe don't cost the builder anything, but save you some money or add some efficiency on your end. Number 9, don't be afraid to walk away. If for any reason you feel like these aren't the guys or people that we want to deal with, this isn't the builder for us, this isn't the time, don't be afraid to walk away. And number 10, get everything in writing. So when you get to the point that you're going to move forward, it's time to put your contract together. Make sure everything's in writing, home plans, building specs, contract, all the details. If it's not in writing, read through it carefully. If you don't see it there, ask about it. I appreciate you listening today. If you found this information useful, please like or subscribe. Share this with somebody who you think, maybe you're not in the market for a new home, but you know somebody that might be. Maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's a family member or a friend. Send this link along to them. This is a very similar conversation that I would have if we were sitting here in person. I'm helping you get the best deal for yourself. I'm helping you negotiate the best situation for yourself. And everything that I mentioned to you from a home builder's perspective is actually also better for me. So if you came to me and said, hey, we watched your YouTube channel and now we got the upper hand because you told us how to negotiate best, I would say to you, that's fantastic. You are now going to get the best deal I can give you on this home because you've informed yourself and you know how this process is going to work. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.